Thank you very much, colleagues. Our time is up now to start. We are currently 10 members in the house. I can see some colleagues are having network issues. They join and drop and join back. We are hoping they will join us again and have a stable connection. So we can start off today by thanking God for a 6-week journey. I know that everyone here has been very busy, but at least we have been consistent. We have made it a commitment to try and be part of all the sessions and also work through all the documents that we have shared. I want to say thank you to all of you, and we thank God for the grace to go through to this point. Now today, as we all know, for this week, there are only 2 presentations, and they are all geared toward giving us some capacity on how to advocate and market our e-resources. Although, as from the very beginning, we are aware, we are using the Research for Life resources as the base for all the learnings that we have gone through so far. Most of the concepts that we are dealing with are applicable to all other areas. So even the Advocacy Toolkit and the Marketing Plan workbook or tool that we are going to be looking at are applicable to all other information resources. They are not limited to Research for Life. So for the first part of the presentation, which is on advocacy, I am going to simply narrate our experience going through the slides of the presentation on advocacy in the context of this particular project that we are running currently. The phase 1, which is the training of trainers, is what is officially coming to a close today because we are ending our 6th week today. However, all the platforms remain open because there are so many tasks that a lot of people have to try and finish up. So we are only officially bringing the curtains down on the ToT, but it is not the end of our collaboration, or it is not a goodbye to all of us. We really want to keep the group running, so we will not close any of the groups. Now, before I start sharing my screen, I want to explain that we can make this a discussion because it is not really much of a content that requires assessment, but it's about sharing experience on how we can market these resources. Since you are trainers, you are going to go and train your colleagues and perhaps students. Now, how do we get them attracted to and interested or involved in the use of these resources? Because although the Research for Life resources are free to us because we are a Category A country, I'm sure that many of our institutions also have their own subscribed e-resources in many forms. Now, these resources are very expensive. And so if the institutes, universities, and other organizations will be paying these thousands of dollars to the providers, and the users are not really using the resources, you realize it will really not be a good investment in terms of value for money. So the tool that we are going to be looking at, and I'll demonstrate it soon, is something that will help us to map out any of the areas of our collections, particularly the librarians or other research directors, lecturers. These tools are very important in trying to help us plan how we get our students or clients or patrons engaged on any kind of resource that we try to promote in our various departments and institutions. So I thank you very much. And I'm going to start off by sharing my screen. All right, so this is the advocacy slide or presentation. And we can start off from here, the UNICEF definition of what advocacy is. Talking about a deliberate process based on demonstrated evidence. I like that particular adjunct, based on demonstrated evidence, to directly and indirectly influence decision makers, stakeholders, and relevant audience to support and implement actions that contribute to enhanced access to scientific knowledge. So why I am very much interested in that adjunct based on demonstrated evidence is because we are going out to train, and I wish to actually highlight that aspect. Sorry, that's a non-starter. Okay, let's forget about that. We are going to be telling others about these resources. And as we go to tell them about the resources, we need to demonstrate how it can benefit them. Sorry that I'm not using a mouse, so my hand is not drawing well. All right, but that particular aspect, what evidence are we going to give? We are going to look at the marketing tool, which will give us a fair idea on how to plan to sell out these resources to others. The marketing tool is important not only for marketing purposes. We are going to very soon look at the difference between marketing and advocacy, but it's also good in helping us guide the advocacy effort. Now, if we plan to speak about citation databases, then we need to demonstrate to our institution leadership the usefulness of research metrics, how it positions our university for perhaps grant funding, collaboration, and everything else that comes with sometimes even rankings. Okay, recently we saw Cape Coast doing so brilliantly in the World University Rankings. Yes, so demonstrated evidence is what is very useful in trying to engage authorities, people who are in decision-making positions. So in the NGO sector, in the government agencies or offices, demonstrating evidence of what you are arguing or whatever policy you are trying to come up with is what will move decision makers to adopt or even consider your propositions. So the advocacy tool is also uploaded. In fact, the link is available on the course worksheet, the course work schedule. By now, all of you know the work schedule. It's a spreadsheet on the Teams channel. You will see I have uploaded or actually hyperlinked the advocacy tool from my drive, that is OneDrive. I've also hyperlinked 2 versions of the marketing tool. We are going to come to that. It's an Excel. One is in the electronic form and one is print friendly. So those who want to print out the marketing tool before they use it, you can pick the print friendly one. And those who wish to do everything on their computer, you can pick the electronic one. But for advocacy in our context, okay, what we are looking at mainly is about building partnerships that will make our resources, whether electronic or print, to get used. All right. So in this case, I will simply be going through the principles that are laid down here and be describing how these principles are reflected in the current projects that we are running. The toolkit that we are discussing is actually from Research for Life, but as I said, it can be applied to any resource at all. And of course, all these Research for Life products are licensed under the Creative Commons 4.0. Okay, so you are free to reuse them and recombine them, but you have to share it alike. So you can actually go to this link to get this particular document. That is the Advocacy Toolkit. So available in English, Spanish, and French. You can download the PDF version. Then they try to give us examples of some people who have tried in their own corners the advocacy work. And here you can see one from Uganda, Chambogo University. Then one from Zimbabwe and the other from Papua New Guinea. These are just examples of what librarians and information professionals are doing in their various domains to bring about advocacy and marketing of our resources to our clients. At this point, I would like to share that we will be creating a special channel for impact stories, okay, for impact stories. I'm sure that in one way or the other, this 6-week course has been useful to you in your area of work. And I will share one example that right during our 2-day workshop, we got an invitation from one of our professors from the School of Basic and Biomedical Sciences here, who needed us to support a process for him to get some metrics from Scopus on a particular subject area, which conference is due just next week. Okay. And of course, our access to Scopus through this temporary login that we have for the training project and the modules that we have studied on research metrics and impact analysis have actually helped us to work together with the professor to actually get him what he wanted. And he was so happy. All right. So for me, as a personal impact story, I believe that it was out of this workshop, the exposure to the bibliometrics and research impact issue that we studied. I think that was week number 1 or so of this course. That actually sustained that zeal, you know, to go further into applying the skills to a specific area that was needed by a particular professor in our university here at UHAS. Maybe in your case, it is not bibliometrics, it is not the citation databases. Maybe in your case, it is just a search for a research article or something else. In any way that this course has impacted you or is currently impacting you, you can share that story on our Impact Story channel. When it is available, I'll let you know, so we can all contribute our impact stories there as a way of proving the worth of this course. Now, this is where I will begin to share our experience on this project with you as a teaser and a kind of motivator for you to see how you may also design future programs for capacity building and for any other area that you think there's need in your organization. The first step for a successful advocacy strategy is to identify the challenge, all right? So in our case, what did we identify? We realized that although since 2013, we had access to Research for Life, and of course, we have had access to several other e-resources, yet our users did not seem to be using these resources. And we need to find out why. One of the big issues that we identified was the fact that they did not know how to navigate around these resources. They didn't have the basic skills to actually get access, although majority of them were aware that these resources were available at the library and they could even visit the library website. They still were not using these resources for their own benefit. And this was, it was at all levels, not only students, lecturers, all areas. So we needed to find out how we could, address that issue, that gap that we found between availability and access of our resources. Then we saw that if we will do this, we need to leverage a particular resource that has unified access. And we saw Research for Life give us free access. So no matter where somebody was, the person could still actually access it. And then we felt that, well, day in, day out, the university is growing. We keep receiving students. New lecturers are joining from all other institutions. We are taking postgraduate students, sandwich, top-ups, all manner of stakeholders in our resources keep coming into the university. And so we would need to expand the scope of the intervention that we wanted to give beyond just the immediate people in our internal environment. So we decided, okay, fine. As the only health training institution at this level, at the research level or higher education level in the region and perhaps in the whole country, wholly dedicated to health, it would be good if we expand the training to cover all other health institutions. And by health, we're looking not only in the strictest sense of human health in terms of disease and treatment and all of that, but in the holistic perspective of health and well-being, understanding very well that our environment, the water that we drink, everything else constitutes health. We decided, well, any institution or government agency that is connected with human health, whether in the medical sciences or environmental sciences, agri sciences, water resources, whatever, we will have to bring everybody on board and see how, if we expose everyone to the availability of these scientific knowledge resources, we could actually work together to develop not only our region, but the entire country and beyond. Because I mentioned, we keep taking students from all sectors. We have foreign students coming from all parts of Africa and the sub-region and all of that. So we know that if we are successful at what we are doing right now, we are actually affecting not only the internal community of UHAS, but the entire Ghanaian society and perhaps Africa and beyond. Then we needed to come down to setting a goal for this project and setting up specific objectives that we're going to attain under this goal, which was what constituted our proposal. Because of course, all the brilliant ideas that we're holding on paper will need money to prosecute. So Once we got the ideas together as a proposal, we knew we could seek for sponsorship. But that is the preliminary stage of everything. Money was not really the main idea. Anybody at all, the internal environment, our own UHAS management could have supported us. But because we were aligning everything to the Research for Life resources, we took advantage of a window that opened in 2019 for applications for grants that were open for training in Research for Life. So that was a perfect coincidence, and we decided to give it a try. So they took our proposal, studied it, and realized it had a lot of merit, and they decided to grant us the funds for doing this training program. But as I said, we had all these mapped out adequately. If you observe even the structure of the training that we are going through, you see that we set up the training in such a way that it will have a replica effect. So we decided that in phase 1 of this training, we're going to train trainers. And so all of you who are in this particular training right now, you are either a lecturer, a research leader, or anybody of that level, a research fellow, a director of an institute, a field research person, an NGO. So you know, all of you are from a certain level where you will be able to give direction, mentorship, or train other people in your organizations that you are representing on the same things that you have gone through in this 6 weeks course. That was our first strategy or approach. If we train trainers, then we are sure that our training will have a replica effect. That means our impact will be growing, exponentially. Because as you train others, those people are also having the capacity to train other people, and then it continues. Then we realize that apart from the trainers who must train other people in smaller units at their department levels or agency level, whichever level, we needed to also select particular modules and do community-wide training. So that was our second approach, or phase 2, which is yet to happen. Phase 2 will be happening, I believe, on November 18. I will be sharing with you through our electronic virtual platforms a promotional in regard to that. We have actually made a request to Mendeley, okay, that's Elsevier, and they have already published the event for November 18, 2021, and it's going to be a mega webinar on the searching and reference management, particularly using Mendeley. And they actually have some packages for us on that. It's still on the way. We have not received them yet. When we receive them, you have the trainers that we have trained, you all have the package. So that second part was targeted at everyone in the university or school or teaching hospital, colleges, any of the institutions that are participating right now. We will do a community-wide training. And this one is planned such that you, the trainers who are finishing from this ToT, will mobilize your specific communities for us. So the 3 or 2 of you who are coming from a particular agency, let's say Agric, you will mobilize your colleague staff in Agric for us, so that when we share that link for the November 18 training, all of them will log in and have an experience of that one-day event, which is going to be a global event. Many people are going to join from all manner of sectors and all backgrounds. Now, our belief was that if we are able to reach out this way, everything documented and shared. As you can see, everything we are doing right now, including today's session, we continuously share them. We have a library YouTube page. And so for all of you who have actually subscribed to our page and perhaps liked any of our videos that we have shared so far, any moment that anything drops there, you are going to have notification. Okay, so the idea is to maintain this knowledge base, and reaching out to these large groups of people will make it easier for you, the trainers, to even do your subsequent training. So the November 18 event, for example, will be a sort of appetizer that will soften the ground for you for your subsequent trainings that you are going to be organizing. For your subsequent trainings, you will actually give us a schedule based on your marketing plan. I mentioned the marketing plan 2 is going to be the next presentation after this, and that will be taken by Lenny Ryan. You'll be joining us at exactly 11, and he will take us through the entire 2. So after taking us through, each of you, by each, I mean each of the organizations represented here. So if you are 3 people from an organization, you come together and develop a solid marketing plan, and then you share that with us. The marketing plan that you develop is actually going to be scored. It's going to be part of your 80% scoring for the award of Certificate of Achievement, all right? So after taking you through the tool today and familiarizing you with what it looks like and how you can use it, we'll be requiring it as an activity for you to submit, but it's going to be a group work for each department or school at UHAS, for example, because we have multiple schools and institutes. Each institute or school will also collectively work on a single marketing tool. So if you are 3 candidates coming from, let's say, the School of Pharmacy, then the 3 of you work together to develop one marketing tool and submit for your school. If you're coming from ITAM, Institute of Traditional and Alternative Medicine, or IHR, Institute of Health Research, then you also 2 or 3 of you who are coming from that unit will work together on a single marketing plan, and then you share that with us. Okay, so our community-wide training on November 18 will help to, put people in readiness for the subsequent trainings that you will be organizing at your institute, school, department, agency, or organizational levels. All right. Now, that marketing plan takes care of the last 3 items that are on this page: mapping out the resources and capabilities, developing the strategic plan and activities, and then monitoring and evaluating the results. These are going to be captured in the marketing plan tool. That is why I said from the beginning that the marketing plan tool is helpful even for the advocacy tool. All right. So how do you go about this? From the definition of advocacy, we realize that the best and most important step is collecting the evidence. So is there any evidence that training in any area that you have identified is necessary or needed? Now, apart from that evidence that there is a need, the fact is that your departments, your organizations, or your institutes have also nominated and sent you to come for this training on behalf of the organization or institute or school or department. So you will need to go back and report. In that reporting, it is not simply just writing a report covering the event that happened, but as part of the terms of engagement, you will have to replicate the training to your fellow department members or school, faculty, or whichever organization. Okay, then as you replicate this training, you engage decision makers on some of these efforts and see how it can be sustained from time to time. What kind of partnerships can you forge, perhaps with your library or with any external organization? For example, if you are a professional school, you don't have an e-resource lab, or let's say an electronic library, but the kind of tools that we are promoting here, the resources are all electronic. How are you going to proceed with your training and all of that? Are you going to perhaps collaborate with another school which has the facility in order to run your activities there? Maybe you want to collaborate with UHAS or HTU, whoever has the space and the facility in order to train your faculty or others. Or maybe you might consider developing a proposal to talk to organizations in town, MTN, Vodafone, and the rest, maybe to come to your aid and supply some computers, get a space. And so all these things, once you identify the need, okay, and you have been exposed to what is available elsewhere, the idea about how you want to approach the advocacy and marketing efforts for e-resources will come up. And it can come in any area at all, okay? Because it is important to have the facility in order to be able to promote the resources. So getting the facility established itself is a great advocacy effort. And it takes a lot of negotiation with management to be able to get the resources to set up an electronic library, okay, with a good capacity, maybe a minimum of 50-seater capacity, so you can train groups of students meaningfully. You understand the kind of gadgets that are involved, the kind of technology, even in terms of human resource, the capacity that you need to build to be able to handle that. Because after doing a single or one-off training, there'll be a lot of follow-up requests. There'll be a lot of consultations. You have the men to be able to go ahead and do the one-on-one consultations with faculty, staff, student support and research and all of that. So it's a whole big area for us to think very wide and capture our need specific to the context we find ourselves in. All right, so that is what the scenario is. So how do you identify your area of advocacy? As I said, you're in the environment. Your context will tell you. Then the resources, do you have them? Luckily now, I think all the educational institutions on this course now have access to Research for Life, their own individual access for the organizations. It's only the NGOs that do not yet have the access. For the NGOs, I have actually got in touch with your chair, GCNH, Madam Enyam. I think I need to get in touch with you. I'm not sure if you are on this meeting currently, but if you are, later let's talk about it. Because for the NGOs in health, I spoke with their coalition chair for voter review, Reverend Osei, and he tells me that on November 4, they are going to have their quarterly meeting. So they will decide there as a body, and then we'll take it up from there how they'll have organization-specific login credentials to the Research for Life resources, all right? But for all the professional schools, the nurses, midwifery training colleges, and all of that, School of Hygiene, the universities, all of us now have access to Research for Life. So at least in terms of the resources that you need to carry out your advocacy and the marketing efforts, now you have Research for Life for it. Now, what really drives your advocacy efforts will find expression in one of these. Well, it is possible that based on your context, you might find something else that gives you the problem to drive your advocacy effort. But look at these scenarios. That one, the library wants to access Research for Life, but you are situated in Group B country. This will not apply to us because Ghana is still a Category A country. Scenario B is where the institution has provided its members with free access to scientific knowledge through Research for Life for years, but then suddenly the country gets reclassified as Category B. Now, this can affect Ghana. We do not know when, but it is possible. Now, Category B countries pay some amount of money, about $1,500. So when that transition happens, okay, it is likely many institutions will lose access because they might not be able to raise $1,500. So at that point, then you will have to deploy your advocacy effort to see how you can raise that amount of money to support the continued access to the resources. So that can present one scenario for your advocacy and planning. In scenario C, the librarians of the institution, which is subscribed to the R4L resources, notice that their institutional members are not aware of the resources that Research for Life provides. So the staff actually needs to raise awareness about the resources. To organize training, they need funding and support from their money. Now, this option C, or scenario C, is what actually drove our current project. So in our case, we had access, but we realized the low patronage or use of the resources due to the low levels of awareness of the expanse of resources that we have access to through Research for Life. You know, many people see Research for Life as just one resource, but from this training, I believe all of you have realized how big Research for Life is, cutting across so many subject areas and providing access to thousands of journals, databases. I think for all Ghanaian institutions, for example, you have access to 43 databases. You get it. So Research for Life is not just, it's not a database. So that wrong notion is one thing that you have to try and correct from the very beginning when you are trying your advocacy effort. Research for Life is not a database. Research for Life is a portal of so many e-resources, including journals, books, databases, whatever have you, in the health sciences, in agric, in environment, in global justice or legal issues and social sciences, and also in development and innovation. All right. So that is what Research for Life. Then scenario 4 is where the library would like to make more use of Research for Life, but is lacking technical equipment. Wow, look at that scenario 4. Lacking technical equipment to provide access to the resources. So they need to convince the institutional management to invest in infrastructure. I think I mentioned this one also. So for example, maybe in your institution, the problem is the unavailability of facility. So if that is what is driving your advocacy effort, it's a great start. You have identified there's no e-library at all. So even when we teach these things, where will the students go and access the resources? Unless we are expecting that every single student must have their own laptop, okay, which we know practically is not the case. For example, I've observed that our students, for most of them, they only get their personal laptop when they're in level 400. I'm telling you that's a fact. We know them, they're returning to our e-library all the time. Some of them, even level 400, they still depend on the library computers, okay? So definitely as a training institution in health or agric environment, whatever of the sciences, in the 21st century, you cannot run your programs solely based on manual or physical documents. No, at least there should be a few workstations available for your students to access electronic resources, all right? So these are the kinds of scenarios that can call for an advocacy effort. Now, the rest are simply about how to go through the steps one by one, which I have already shared. So coming back to our program, the course that is currently running and how we came to this level. Once we identified that this was the issue, there was low patronage. People were not using the facility because they were not aware what Research for Life was all about, the kinds of resources it contains. And we decided, let us have this type of structure in our training, which will have that ripple effect over the entire environment and beyond just the internal, community of UHAS. Then we needed to develop a strategy. At that stage, we realized if we are involving more institutions that are external to UHAS, then of course they must have stakes in the strategy or the planning, okay? And so very early this year, we decided to form a planning board. And this planning board had membership from various institutions, okay, that represented their institutions. At that decision table, we now plan one by one, looking at the proposal document that we started with and what we have come to implement. I can tell you, it is almost completely a different thing. One, when we put out this proposal in 2019, there was no COVID. We were not expecting that we would even be online here chatting. We thought we could just do some 3 or 5 day workshop, physical, everything is physical. Then we have exchange of ideas and we continue moving from institution to institution, physical things. Nobody thought about this, but then COVID struck and then everything had to be reversed, went back to the planning board, restructure everything. Then at the point we decided, okay, then we'll go purely virtual. That again, the members from the various institutions had to discuss and we realized, no, yet we need to be monitoring the COVID. But at the point when we felt that we were close to a herd immunity in terms of the vaccination that was going on and everything, then we decided, okay, fine, it is possible now to have the face-to-face. But again, because we already started with the virtual, the face-to-face will not be very extensive and it will focus only on particular aspects of the course that actually demanded physical or hands-on practical activity. Of course, the 2 day was not enough to do all the practical activities involved. As we saw, for example, part of the Mendeley, we have said we are bringing it back online. It's going to happen. Okay, I'm waiting for us to decide when we will do that. It is surely going to happen. That is different from the November 18 community-wide training anyway. Okay, this one is for the ToT participants. As I mentioned before, most of the things that we expose you to are beyond what we would give to a general user audience. Okay. So our classification of the trainees is that we have the master level or the trainers category, and we also have the user category. For users, we are not really going to delve so much into these kinds of details you have done in the 6-week course that you have gone through. No, you have gone through this level of details because you will need it when you are going to train other people. But for the people that you are going to train who are simply going to just use the system, they will not need all the details that you have gone through. All right. So briefly, that was how we came up with this whole program. And of course, to be honest with you, it was not done and dusted at any point, not even right now as I'm speaking, because it is still work in progress. We continue to monitor things. And I want to thank you a lot, those of you who have been completing the module evaluations for us. At every time we monitor the comments that are coming, then we know exactly how to look at it. Not every single recommendation could be implemented immediately, but of course, these are all ideas we have taken into account for the design of our next phase of training. And of course, those of you who will be part of our subsequent trainings, you will realize that most of the suggestions that we have made, we have incorporated them or polished them a bit to enhance how we do the subsequent trainings compared to the current one that has happened. I want to thank all of you. I believe it was a great learning experience. I've been very generic in saying all these things because I know that we have different contexts and different needs, but we are open to consult and engage with any one of you or any group coming from any specific institution on your specific area of need, all right? So let us engage, let us talk about this. If you have found your area of need, then you can get in touch and let us see how we work together on an advocacy strategy, okay? All right, this is where I want to stop sharing and then invite any questions that you may have on what I have shared so far. Thank you very much for your patience. And we are waiting for Lenny to also join at exactly 11 o'clock. It's about 4 minutes to that time. Between now and that time, when Lenny joins, any question at all on what I have said concerning the advocacy is welcome. Thank you. Do you have any question yet on the advocacy? Kindly unmute yourself and then ask, or if you like, type in the chat, I'll read it. Okay, if there's no question yet, maybe I should share the marketing tool as well and show you what it looks like before Lenny comes to take us through the entire process of how to do your marketing strategy or plan. So I'll start sharing again. All right, so on our Teams page, okay, when you simply go to files, okay, go to files. This is our course schedule, the only Excel file, okay, that is there. So here you will find all the documents that we have used in this 6-week training, topic by topic. The download links are there right from the very first. The pre-course assessment is still available for you to fill if you have not done that. If you want access to any of the documents, scientific landscape, research assessment metrics, all the presentation slides are here. But this week with 6, we are here and we are on these 2 lesson topics. Research for Life Advocacy Toolkit. The presentation, you already had it. It was shared in the Research for Life channel 03 on the Teams. Now, today I uploaded the document itself. This one was just a presentation about advocacy, but the Advocacy Toolkit, the document itself, I've also attached that one here. You can download through this link. Then the marketing strategy presentation also was shared, I think, on Tuesday or Monday. But the workbook itself, as I said earlier during my presentation, there are 2 versions of the workbook, okay? So your marketing plan workbook, you have the electronic version. You can download that through this. Then you have the print-friendly one. So I will show the electronic version and how it works for you to see. If you are interested in doing everything on your computer, you don't want to print and use pen to write, then you have to download the electronic version. All right, so if you're using the electronic version, everything looks blank like this, but it's not really blank, all right? It's a programmed worksheet. And so it asks for the name of the institution. You can use the text box, okay, to type here. So you can just go to insert, then under shapes, okay, you can pick a text box, this one, and then it's already selected. You just drag it to the top here. I'm sure all of you know how to use this. So for those who are doing the electronic one, to be able to superimpose something here, just use a text box, and you can actually edit or format this text box, okay? So you know what to do. I'll forget about this one now. You can type in, so UHAS, for example, type in UHAS or whatever. So the institution name can be done using a text box. All right, let's forget about that. The main document, which is from here, you see, once you click inside a document, it gives you screen tips. So for this first part, which says client groups or marketing segments. So market segmentation, you need to be able to identify which particular group of people you want to promote the resources to. So it tells you should select one of the client groups in the list or enter your own client group name as appropriate to your context. So when you click on this arrow here, it gives you the list. So what group of people do you want to be sharing information on these resources with? Are they faculty members, that is lecturers or tutors of your institution? Are they clinicians? Are they NGO executive or field staff? Are they policy executives? Are they postgrads? Are they research assistants or research fellows? Are they administrative staff? Are they undergraduates? You know, so if the group that you want to deal with is not listed here, you are free to type your own. So I can decide to type here police service. Police service. Okay, but when I do that and I press enter to move on, you see that there's a warning. And the warning, the info says you are about to enter your custom client group name. Click yes to continue or no to return to list and select a matching group. Continue. I say yes because I didn't find any of those groups, you know, applicable to me. Then I move. So you do this thing for all the 5 different columns. Maybe for the second batch of training, I want to deal with clinicians, so I just pick that one. And I move here. For my third group, I'm looking at postgrads, so postgraduate students. For my fourth group, I'm looking at research fellows, so I pick research fellows. And in the last subgroup that I want to be dealing with, I'll be talking to policy executives. So I have mapped out my client groups. And depending on the particular group that you want to be dealing with, you will, okay, welcome Lenny. I've seen you have just joined. All right.
Need about 1 minute here.
Okay, great. So Lenny is going to take us through the entire marketing plan. I was just trying to demonstrate how the electronic version works.
Oh, well, we'll try to do it.
Yes. Okay.
So together, I have to put on my, I'll be with you in a minute.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So while we wait for Lenny to start off, it's the same thing with the rest. If you click in any cell here, you see that it gives you information about that cell and what you should do there. So it says you should select information need. So what kind of information need do you think the police service actually needs that you want to address? So is it current research? Maybe current research. So that is what you want to address for the police subgroup. When you come to clinicians, maybe you are interested in evidence-based research. So you pick this, all right? So this is how you match the information need against the client category or group. And as you proceed, you see that others follow in that suit. And by the time you reach the end, you would have had a complete plan or strategy of how you intend promoting the resources to these various groups, all right? I'll remove all of these things from here. You are free to download this. As I mentioned, that is if you want to work electronically. Or the second version, the print-friendly version is also there. You download that one if you want to print and then write with your pen. So at this point, I want to say thank you for holding on, and we welcome Lenny as a professor.
Okay.
Yes.